Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor, and the Hyundai N performance products have been some of my favorite cars to drive since they hit the streets with the Veloster N, at least here in the United States, back in the late 20-teens. Now we've got one of the most mature offerings from them, partially because they've stripped away some of the other offerings. We no longer get the Veloster N, we no longer get the Kona N, which was the Daily Motor Car of the Year back in, I think that was 2023, perhaps? No, it must have been 22. 22 Daily Motor Car of the Year. But now we get this Elantra. And for the 2024 model year, this one I know is a 25, so it's going to see the same things. But for 24, they made the Elantra better than ever. They improved upon the outgoing and pre-facelift Elantra N, and then also the base Elantra to make the car, I don't know if I'd go as far as to say look better, but it looks different. But more importantly, it rides better, and it hooks up better, and is better to drive on a daily basis. So today I'm going to go through my observations with the car after a week and a good amount of mileage, tell you my pros and cons, give you my final thoughts, and at the end of the video, put it on the Daily Motor Leaderboard. I'm a bit curious to see where it's going to go because sometimes I have an idea before I shoot a car's wrap-up video here, and I kind of know where it's going to land on the Daily Motor Leaderboard, but I don't really know. This one's, it's going to be up there. I just don't know how high it's going to go. For a brief overview, you're looking at a front-wheel drive, 2-liter turbocharged car with the 8-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission, putting out with its boost mode 286 horsepower and 275 pound-feet of torque. The car cost just over $36,000 and got just over 30 miles per gallon in our highway fuel economy test. So this is a very usable daily sort of car, and I appreciate that not only does Hyundai offer it in both automatic and manual transmission options, but they kind of cater the car slightly differently depending on what transmission you get. If you pick the automatic transmission car, you're getting a sunroof, whereas if you pick the manual transmission car, then you're not getting any sort of sunroof on it, keeping that weight and center of gravity down. But despite how fun the Elantra is to drive in the real world, I have had some nitpicks with it, and two of them actually both start as soon as you get in the vehicle. Opening up the door here, we do have proxy key, which is good, but it's these sport seats. And it's not that I don't like them. I actually quite like the sport seats, but a little bit myself, and more so my wife, have pointed out that they are a bit hard to get in and out of, When she sits down, this bolstering is not comfortable for her, and I do have to admit it is a bit tough to get in and out of it. Now, most people purchasing a nearly 300 horsepower sport compact like this are going to want seats that hug them and keep them comfortable for when they're ripping around corners. But you should know, if you plan on using the Elantra N as a daily driver, these are the seats that are offered. That's all you get, and they can be a little bit difficult to get in and out of. And then secondly, right up here, no handle for the driver for getting in and out or for simply resting their hand on as they're driving. You'll see a handle right here in the ceiling and on the two seats in the rear outboard, and there's even a cutout, which you probably can't quite see because of the black roof liner and the glare, but there's even a cutout for if this were a right-hand drive car, they put one on for the left hand. And it's just disappointing to me that I can't drive with my hand up here or use that to help me clear this bolstering getting in and out of the car. It's a very small cost-cutting measure that I understand that a lot of cars don't have this, but I'd still like to have it. Next nitpick is probably the biggest one, and one that I know will be remedied at some point, but here in the year of our Lord, 2025, we're still not getting wireless CarPlay or Android Auto for the Elantra. We've got a nice touchscreen infotainment system here, and it works well. I appreciate using it, but you gotta have a cord in here, and that is a bit frustrating. Now that does give me a very convenient time to mention one of the channel sponsors, Magtame. Now you'll see I'm using just a crappy random cord right here, but the cord that I keep with me for using in press cars on trips or charging my phone or anything is this beautifully magnetized cable. It's the Type C to Type C, but you can get them with lightning adapters or all different sorts. This is something like $25, and you can see how nice and neat it stays in my bag. I've got a second one in here, an older one, a USB-A to USB-C, and these are great little stocking stuffers, great gifts for someone that you just need to buy somebody a little gift for, something like that. So check the link below, you can get some money off, you can give us a little bit of commission cash there, and if you own a Hyundai product, you can use it for connecting to Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So that wasn't even intended to be a promotion, but hey, might as well plug it, because it is an annoyance of mine having to have a cable muck up this interior, especially because we do have wireless device charging, but there's not really any point in using the wireless device charger if you're going to have your phone plugged in projecting anyway. And the next con comes into the fact that we don't have adaptive cruise control. And it's not solely the lack of adaptive cruise control, because I actually don't really mind that much, but it's this weird combination where we do have active lane keeping. So I can turn this on, set the cruise, and look at this, the car is very competent in taking us through the lane like this without me even touching the steering wheel, but I don't have adaptive cruise control. So you might get in a situation where somebody gets a little less careful behind the wheel than they should because they're being driven so nicely by the adaptive cruise or by the active lane keeping, but then they don't realize that the car's about to hit another car in front of them because you don't have adaptive cruise control. So it's just kind of strange to me that you get the lane keeping without the adaptive cruise. Oh yeah, man, this car is so much fun. I love feeling a little bit of that torque steer, that front wheel drive wrangle there. The last con, again, not that big of a deal, but it is the fuel economy, and it's just a little bit compared to its peers, because some of the other cars in this category are so expertly built and tuned with their powertrains that they're made to get the most power as possible out of the engines, and a lot of people don't realize that if you're making an engine that makes a lot of power, you're technically making it more efficient as well, because you're using you're getting as much output from the power source as possible. So it's a bit strange to me that with this engine, you're getting horsepower figures that are similar to what you're getting from Honda and Volkswagen and some of the other manufacturers kind of do these high horsepower 2 liters, but yet you're not getting nearly the fuel efficiency numbers. Now, I have noticed that the real world numbers do come out a little bit better than the EPA. I mean, the EPA gives us a woeful 23 miles per gallon mixed driving result, but still, with the Honda and the Volkswagen, you're going to be able to get over 30 pretty easily if you're not flogging it. This car, it's just perfect highway cruising. You're just barely cresting 30 miles per gallon. Not the end of the world for this sort of car, but again, compared to some of the other options, it's a bit of a bummer. Our first pro brings us back here static, and it is the physical control layout in this vehicle. Look at all of these nice buttons for volume or cruise control or voice commands, apparently. And our AM radio, we've got physical controls for our screen brightness, physical controls for our headlights, physical controls for volume and climate control, drive modes. Everything is right here. It's very easy, nicely laid out both visually and functionally. Heck, we even have a real physical manual parking brake, which is fun for doing drifts when you're in a snowy climate, perhaps. So I really appreciate all the physical controls in here. Easy to use, and they work well. Our next pro comes right here. It's this engine. This little 2-liter turbo has been out for a number of years now and has been continually improved upon over the years in these Hyundai N products. And then paired up with this 8-speed dual clutch automatic transmission, it's a hoot holler and a half. I have always loved driving this car around, partially because they focused on making it a fun car in the real world. Yes, it is capable in track driving sort of scenarios, but it's not like something like the Civic Type R where it's a track weapon first and a car second. This is a fun daily driver car first. And yes, the dual clutch automatic model is a little bit less loud from an exhaust standpoint, but it's still so fun. This engine is torquey, it revs out, it makes good sounds, and they've made improvements for 2024, technically, to have the transmission shift even smoother than before. And yeah, you do get the occasional dual clutch sort of abrupt shifts, but when you're just driving around in normal or eco mode, this transmission drives smoother than a lot of much more expensive and much more luxury focused cars that I've driven over the last few months. Looking at you, Mazda. And then the next pro comes from the suspension improvements. Look at this. Look at how much compliance there is there. If I were in a pre-facelift Elantra N going over these speed bumps, I would be rattled over these aggressive speed bumps. So much improvement to the ride. And on top of those improvements for 2024, we get an upgraded diff that helps. Well, it's not only just a diff, there's actually a whole slew of improvements, and I have a whole separate video going over those improvements for the 2024 car when I drove the manual. But some of the real world tangible improvements come from not only the ride, but the diff and the engine mounts, so that you get less wheel hop. If I turn the traction control off here, traction and stability control off, which thank goodness they still allow us to do. That was tires cold, me taking a right turn and flooring it. And I did hear and feel a little bit of spin there, but you didn't get that aggressive, violent wheel hop that you used to get out of the Elantra N. So yes, the slew of improvements are appreciated, but more so than just the improvements themselves, I appreciate that it shows how Hyundai listens to their customers, listens to feedback from potential customers, from journalists, from everyone across the board to actually make their products better and improve them significantly and tangibly, and not just improve them in ways to make money for themselves and save and cost cut. I mean, I'm using the full torque and horsepower band there. I'm not having situations where I'm losing it and getting that awful clunking sound from the pre-facelift car. All right, we're gonna do a launch away from this light and see if we can get the tires to wheel hop. Nathan would appreciate how easy it is to activate this launch control. You just press the button and then it tells you that it's good for 5 minutes. Ooh, okay. There was one right there, to be fair. Full disclosure, but not nearly as bad as the cars before this. And part of it's just the nature of front wheel drive cars. That's what you're gonna get. But it was able to put the power down pretty good. Did have one of those really aggressive wheel slams there though. The next pro comes into the fact that you can purchase this car new off the showroom floor and beat the heck out of it for 100,000 miles or 10 years, and your powertrain warranty is still good. You're not going to get that from Honda. You're not going to get that from Volkswagen. You're not going to get that from pretty much any other manufacturer that makes a car like this. So if you're a bit concerned about the longevity of the Elantra N, rest assured knowing that you have 6 years or 60,000 miles of bumper-to-bumper coverage, and then you've got a 10-year, 100,000 powertrain warranty. I think that's really cool. And the last pro, you've been seeing me do it throughout the day, and I'm just now seeing that there is an officer of the law parked over there, so I am actually not going to do it here. But it's the fun factor of this car. It's the fact that with one button press right there, all of a sudden I'm making noise, I'm getting aggressive shifts, and I'm having so much fun just driving the car here in the real world on the streets. I can even go here into the exhaust settings and I can change the piped in sound that it makes. I can go sound, active sound design. Right now it's in sporty, but I could switch to TCR. And I get that kind of whiny sound. I could do high performance. I could do rally. And then for 2025, I can actually individually adjust and fine-tune those noises as well. So Hyundai looked into how can we make this car, yes, a great performance vehicle, but also just pure fun. That just fun factor and enjoyment that a lot of brands lose out these days just trying to chase spec sheets and lap times. Hyundai knows that what's more important for a car is for it to be fun to drive. And I love that so much. So my lasting thoughts on the Elantra N echo those of the Veloster and the Kona. They're cars with great amounts of bandwidth, great amounts of use case, and therefore great amounts of appeal for so many different owners and buyers. Yeah, you could go out there and you could spend this same amount of money on a Camry or on an Accord or on the CX-5. Those are all great cars, but this one is going to be the most fun for that amount of money. I guarantee it. It's going to be the coolest, it's going to be the most fun, and it's going to add a degree of excitement to your day-to-day driving, and also add an access to a fun car on the weekends that you're not going to get by purchasing one of those other models. But before we wrap up our review, we've got to put the Elantra N on the Daily Motor Leaderboard. And I'm a bit fearful because this might end up being one of those cars that doesn't look like it performs as well on the Daily Motor leaderboard as my feelings for the car reflect, because my goal with the Daily Motor leaderboard is how comprehensively compelling is the vehicle. And while I just got done saying that this Elantra N is compelling to a lot of different owners and buyers, it's still a bit niche and it still has restrictions. And I don't know. Let's just see what we got. We got Hyundai Santa Fe, Kia EV9, and Ford F-150 up at the top. Then Ioniq 6, Toyota Tacoma, LC500, Mazda 3. All right. I enjoy this car quite a bit. It comes in the manual also. Okay. I know where it's going. It's going to sit right next to one of its stablemates, way up near the top, 4th place, right below the F-150, right above the Hyundai Ioniq 6. And the reason I think that's fitting is because the Ioniq 6 is a fantastic car for somebody looking for an EV, and the Elantra N is a fantastic car for somebody looking for a sporty daily driver. I mean, this is great. You get powertrain options, you get color options, you get, well, you don't get wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Maybe that would have pushed it into the top 3. But I love the Elantra N, and I think you would as well. Thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on the car, check the link below, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.